Ever heard of traditional Russian values? Well, they've gone through some serious inflation.
Страна по этому показателю вышла на 3-е место в мире по числу разводов.
Thought Russian women were desperate to get married. Plot twist this day, they're desperate to get divorced.
Отец 2 детей вывез в лес супругу и после жестоких пыток отрубил ей топором обе кисти рук.
Still think Russian men are the embodiment of masculinity? More like textbook mama's boy.
Z-патриоты потребовали запретить турецкие сериалы.
Hi guys, I'm Natasha and no, I'm not from China or Korea, I'm from Russia. And today I'm going to tell you why the institution of marriage in my country is collapsing, what Turkish soap operas have to do with it, and how the Handmaid's Tale is slowly turning into the Russian woman's tale. If you're a Tucker Carlson fan, now might be a good time to log off. But if you want real insider info, hit that subscribe button or at least give this video a like. It's free for you and huge for me. Now grab your coffee, get comfy, and let's dive in. In my previous video, I mentioned that I wanted to make an episode about Russian women. By the way, you can check out the vodka video, the link is in the description. So I started preparing for this topic and began reading English language forms. And I was honestly shocked to see that foreigners still think all Russian girls supposedly don't care about career or self-development, like their only dream is to be wives and obedient housewives. I was really shocked, and you know why? Because reality shows me a completely different picture. In fact, Russian women not only aren't rushing to get married, many are leaving their marriages in huge numbers. Here's some official data.
Демография упала, пока не встает. На 8 разводов приходилось 10 новых бракосочетаний. Соответственно, страна по этому показателю вышла на 3-е место в мире по числу разводов.
So, how are the authorities dealing with this? Ready? They introduced a law against being child-free. If someone publicly declares they are child-free, they could be fined $5,000. I'll tell you about the other cringe-worthy measures at the end of this episode. You might ask, what about traditional values? Isn't that supposed to be Russia's ideology? Well, buckle up. I'm about to show you what's really hiding behind the pretty slogan and why so many women have decided to walk away from it. When you hear "trad wife", what do you picture? Maybe someone like Brie Van de Kamp, perfectly polished, standing in a spotless house, waiting for her husband to come home. Want to know what I picture, and honestly what 90% of Russians probably picture too? A woman who's sprinting to daycare after an 8-hour shift because she still has to clean the house, cook dinner, and knock out a dozen more chores before collapsing into bed. That's what our traditional values look like. Yep, see, this is how we were raised. If you're a girl, your job is to serve your man, keep the home cozy, and also work your butt off because God forbid someone thinks you're after his money. And this whole setup, it's presented to us as the meaning of life. Grown up, we were taught that marriage is the ultimate goal. My teacher said, "You don't want to learn how to sew? Then who's going to marry you?" My dad said, "You should know how to clean first. If you take a break while cleaning, your future husband will beat you, rest, and then beat you again." My mom said, "Eat more, you're too skinny. Men aren't dogs, they don't go for bones." Honestly, I've heard some wild stuff. And on top of it all, Russia's beauty standards are insane. You're expected to wear heels and makeup even if you're just going to the supermarket. If you don't, people might say you're not feminine enough. Back then, our whole culture revolved around the idea that a woman's value equals a man. Want proof? Just listen to this hit song from the 90s.
Женское счастье, был бы милый рядом, ну а больше ничего не надо.
Back then, that was totally normal. Women truly served men, and in a lot of families, the woman brought in all the income, raised the kids, ran the household, while the husband didn't work and couldn't even wash his own plate. I've seen this first, and some of my classmates had moms who worked full-time jobs, cleaned, cooked, tended gardens, while the dads just drank and occasionally beat them, and the moms didn't leave. That was considered normal. In our society, a single childless woman has judged way more harshly than a woman living with an abusive, unemployed man. We even have a saying for that. He might be useless, but at least he's mine. This comes from post-WW2 trauma, when most of the male population was gone and women were taught to see any man as a treasure, even if he has a walking red flag. The war ended, the gender ratio normalized, but the mindset stuck. That was my mom, that was my friend's moms, that was my grandma, that was every woman. That's whose I was expected to become. But you know what? Screw that. And millions of women my age felt the same. We looked at how our mothers suffered and said, yeah, it's not gonna be my life. Some of us tried that life, then knocked our real quick, and boom, that's where the 80% divorce rate comes from. Now, in the world I just described, of course, men see themselves as the crown of creation. Generations of boys, including mine, were raised like little kings who deserved to be served. Everything was forgiven, and they weren't taught even the most basic life skills. How to make a simple meal, how to clean up after themselves. Not it. Because, as the parents said, he'll get married eventually. So what does that turn into when they grow up? A lot of Russian men seriously think women are their property, and that leads to real tragedies.
С девушкой жестоко расправился ее бывший молодой человек. Пока он убивал подругу, а процесс, как установило следствие, длился более 3 часов, отец 2 детей вывез в лес супругу и после жестоких пыток отрубил ей топором обе кисти рук.
Мужчина оставил без матери собственную дочь. Он убил бывшую супругу прямо перед видеокамерой подъезда.
These men don't respect their wives or girlfriends, but they practically worship their moms. There's this TikTok trend right now. People walk up to random guys on the street holding a huge bouquet and a single wilted rose, and they ask, which would you give your mom and which would you give your wife? Almost every guy says the bouquets for my mom, the rose for my wife, because you only get one mom, and you can have lots of wives.
Мне розу, а маме букет. Мама есть мама, это первая женщина, а жена вторая.
Маму, да маме...
Мама главнее, да?
От маме, розу жене. Мама одна, а жен может быть много.
Маме букет, жене розу. В первую очередь нужно маме внимание уделять.
In Russian social media, these men have earned a very special nickname – basket boys. Сыночка-корзиночка. No, it has nothing to do with basketball. In Russian, the words rhyme, and moms often use it as a sweet nickname for their little boys. We, on the other hand, use it to describe spoiled, dependent, washed-up man babies. You know, the type, 40 years old, still being babied by his mom, and she insists that no woman is worthy for her precious little boy. Now, let me be clear, maybe this isn't just a Russian thing. Let me know in the comments, do basket boys exist in your country too? The biggest problem with Russian men, they don't take responsibility. Not for themselves, not for women, not for money. They don't know how to earn it and don't even try. Why should they? The woman will handle it. Of course, women don't want to waste time on guys like that. But here's the thing, when you meet a man, it's hard to spot a basketball right away. So women came up with a simple test, the first date bill. If the guy suggested going 50-50, he's not someone you can count on. If he can't even buy you a salad, what can you expect from him in life? Naturally, the basket boys got offended, and they came up with their own word in relation. Played girl. In their minds, a played girl is a woman who goes on dates just to get free food. Not a date, a working food scam. They still don't get it. It's not about the salads. Come on, most of women in Russia work so much. We could feed a small army if we want to do it. Now social media is full on war. 40-something men are gathering in private chats, ranting about gold digging business, and girls are making reels roasting basket boys and sharing their worst date horror stories. You open TikTok and it feels like there are no decent men or women left in the country. Just spotted mama's boys and freeloading dinner hunters. Russia now has record low birth rates and record high divorce rates. So, what did the government decide to do? Did they start encouraging men to help raise kids, share their housework, or show basic respect to women? Of course not. The authorities, mostly men by the way, declared a full-blown war on female independence. Their goal: make sure women can't exist outside of marriage and motherhood. For example, there's a growing push to ban termination of pregnancy. Doctors who agree to perform such procedure face harassment. And some doctors take it even further, turning the procedure into something close to torture.
Издание «Урару» опубликовало новость, в которой рассказывается о городской клинической больнице Сургута. Там, по данным журналистов, женщинам проводили операции по прерыванию беременности без наркоза и без обезболивающего. «Урару» цитирует одну из пациенток. Я зачитаю. «Прямо на кресле мне начали проводить процедуру на живую. Я кричала от боли, а мне сказали закрыть рот и не устраивать цирковое представление». Конец цитаты.
Think that's rock bottom. No, now the government is actively encouraging teen pregnancies. Underage girls who get pregnant are now promised cash bonuses. Even the TV show 16 and Pregnant has been rebranded. Now it's called Mom at 16, and it glorifies how beautiful and right it is to have a baby in high school. Still not enough cringe? There's talk of a child-free tax and effort to start brainwashing girls in kindergarten, telling them their place is in the kitchen. And here's my favorite.
Нужно перестать девушек ориентировать на получение высшего образования.
In 21st century Russia, lawmakers are seriously discussing banning women from going to college. Because Russian women dared to choose themselves instead of choosing a man. Some say we're getting dangerously close to living out the Handmaid's Tale. And now dessert. Let's talk about the war of foreign and imaginary boyfriends. Here's the thing. After certain recent events, some Russian women moved abroad to Europe, Asia, the USA, and in exile, they discovered something shocking. There are actually men out there who treat them with respect, men who don't call them fat if they weigh more than 50 kilos. There's even a trend on Instagram where Russian women talk about how no one noticed them back home and now they are surrounded by attractive men abroad. Naturally, Russian politicians noticed and now they are screaming from every screen that we need domestic producers. meaning Russian women should only choose a Russian man. It gets better. They don't just want to control who we date. They want to ban us from even dreaming of a decent guy. Some lawmakers have actually proposed banning Turkish soap operas. I'm not joking.
Z-патриоты потребовали запретить турецкие сериалы, потому что они снижают интерес женщин к российским мужчинам и угрожают демографии.
Their logic? Women watch these beautiful Turkish actors and suddenly don't want to settle for average Russian guys anymore. But hey, judge for yourself. Here are the Turkish actors, and here are typical Russian men after 30. Yes, they are also actors. Now imagine what non-famous ones look like. Now, don't get me wrong, not all Russian men are mama's boys. We still have good ones, responsible, kind, and yes, sometimes even good-looking. And not all Russian women are career-obsessed radicals. Some dream of having a family, kids, and happy marriage, and that's perfectly okay too. I just wanted to show you that being a Russian woman, it's not about being a Russian bimbo or a character from 19 Day Fiancé. It's more complicated. We are more complicated. So, what do you think? Drop a comment and tell me what else you'd like to learn about Russia. Your opinion matters to me. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. I just launched the channel and I really need your support. Alright, I've finished my coffee and I've got around. Bye bye for now. See you soon.